Hello, my name is Melissa Daniels, and this is Strabismus to Stereopsis. This week, I'm going to talk about why the treatments for strabismus and amblyopia are so different and kind of explain what's going on with each one so you can understand the different approach and why it's so important. Before jumping into that, you can go over to learn.strabismussolutions.com to get access to different resources like the courses that I have created, a Zoom call with me, the Strabismus support community, and different PDFs, and just a lot of fun. Every single case of strabismus or amblyopia is very different, and so it's super important that you figure out what is right for you and your specific situation. I will say that for both of these diagnoses, usually they go hand in hand. It is so important that you are working with a professional. Specifically, it's best if you can work with someone who has done a residency in vision therapy and is a certified fellow of optometric vision development, or FOVDRA. So I keep track of a lot of different offices that are great at working with people who have strabismus. So if you want my help finding an office, go to strabismussolutions.com/findvt, and that is a service I offer completely for free because it is so important for you to be in vision therapy. I never want these videos to serve as something to replace in-office vision therapy. It's to educate people who haven't heard of it, or people who are in therapy and need to ask questions or make their therapy even more effective than it was before, help their mindset. There's just so much to it. Let's look at the difference between strabismus and amblyopia, and we'll take somebody who has just one or the other. So if somebody has amblyopia only, that was their only diagnosis, that would mean that their eyes are straight. So if these are both their eyes, they're lined up and straight, but one of them just doesn't work. Okay, so you've got one eye that's doing the work, or maybe like an eye that works like partially, or sometimes it works, or maybe at certain distances, right? This can happen. I'm not going to go into why you get amblyopia, but for some reason, one of the eyes is just not working as much, but they're still lined up and they still developed like normal stereo vision, maybe as an infant. So when it comes to like the tests in office, if you're checking for stereo vision using, when you're in the office and they do these tests and you put on the glasses and they say which dot is closest, people with amblyopia could probably get like some of these. So they are going to have reduced stereo vision almost always, some suppression, like there's stuff going on, but ultimately it's this, okay? Now what happens with strabismus is the eyes aren't straight, and it could be caused from amblyopia, right? Like usually people with strabismus also have some amblyopia. That's extremely common. The idea with strabismus is you've got two eyes, right? And they're not aligned. Sometimes they're not aligned and one of them's turned off and one of them's turned on. Sometimes it's like this. One's on, then the other, and they alternate between the two eyeballs. Sometimes they're both on and you have double vision. Sometimes they'll come on, be together, and then apart, right? You've got all sorts of stuff that can happen with strabismus. But the idea is that these are your two eyes. They aren't combining. There's not the fusion going on a lot of times. And so that is really a key point here, is that this looks similar, right? But amblyopia, we've got both eyes together, but one of them's not on. Strabismus, both eyes are not together and one is not on, if you've got the strabismus and amblyopia together. So how is that going to look different for the treatment process? Both of them, there's so many similarities, right? Both of them, you've got suppression going on, where one eye is doing most of the heavy lifting, the other eye isn't really working. Both of them don't have great stereo. Usually with strabismus, it's like zero stereo. With amblyopia, it's just low stereo abilities. They both usually have really limited peripheral vision, maybe like not great with eye movements, right? So there's a lot of similarities, but the biggest difference is that in amblyopia, if you wake up both eyes, it's okay because they can fuse. That's going to happen, and so you don't end up with double vision. If you have strabismus, so the eyes are not aligned and one eye is on and one eye is off, and you wake up that other eye, the brain doesn't just put them together. It's not like a magic trick. I promise. You think it is. You're like, if I just wake up that other eye, I'm going to be fine. It's not what happens. What happens is you see double. And you hear this like horror story of intractable diplopia. I don't think I ever say that word right. The idea is it's double vision that never goes away. And why does this happen? It's because we've got somebody who has one eye working, one eye completely suppressed. The eyes are turned. They think, I'm going to wake up this eye and then it's going to make my eyes become straight, and it doesn't work. And then they have double vision and they're miserable. Okay. And so because of this, with amblyopia, it's not too scary to wake up that other eye, right? Because the eyes can work together. And so you can do that in the beginning, right? That's something that you can work on right away. With strabismus, you cannot do that part yet. First, you have to start, anyways, there's like a whole process. That leads us right into the next topic, which is how are the treatments different for both of those diagnoses? And this is going to depend completely, I mean, it's so case by case, right? This is something where when I work as a vision therapist in an office, and when I have somebody with amblyopia or strabismus, I'm literally talking to the doctor about them every single week saying, this is what they experienced. What should I do next week? Should I keep it the same? Should I do it differently? Like this isn't, there's not just like one thing like this works for every single person. But in general, here's the idea and why and what makes those treatments so different. When you have an eye turn, so the eyes are not lined up, you have to start with making sure the brain can get fusion between the two eyes. So you have to make sure that there can be some fusion between those eyes before you wake it up. So I don't know how to do that with my hand analogy here. I'm going to have to come up with a new analogy for that part. But the idea is that both eyes can work together in the periphery. And so you have to work on that peripheral fusion, and then you slowly get towards that central vision. So you're not just trying to wake up that weak eye. You actually don't want to, because that will give you double vision. You have to be really careful, and you go really, really slow. It's a very slow process, and you just ease into it little by little and make sure that double vision isn't coming. Now take somebody who just has amblyopia, but the eyes are straight. You already know that their eyes work together, right? Those eyes work together. So just slowly waking up that other eye is okay, because you're not going to get that double vision. And sometimes you do still, and that's why you work with an optometrist, and that's why they do things slowly and make sure, are you seeing double? Like it's a very careful process. But you can do things, a lot more activities with red and blue glasses or red and green glasses, where each eye is seeing something different, where the weak eye is seeing everything and the strong eye can only see certain parts, right? That is something that with just amblyopia and straight eyes is totally reasonable to do in the beginning. They still also are doing a lot of peripheral fusion, because that also helps with the amblyopia. But when you've got strabismus, you can't start on those types of exercises. The video I put out last week about different exercises for amblyopia and different programs, you know what? People who just have only amblyopia, they can do a lot more. There's not as much risk, and so there's a lot of options available. When you have strabismus, you have to be so much more cautious. You can't do those things that are really central, where your weak eye is forced to see like really small details, and the other eye, because it's just gonna create double vision. And so that's the reason why those approaches are so different. Why a game like Eye Hero or Amblyopia is so amazing for amblyopia and can be such a disaster if you have strabismus. Right? If you are in vision therapy and you have seen all the fun apps and games, and you're like, why can't I play those? I want to play the games with red and blue glasses, and I want to play Tetris and all of those things, but you have an eye turn, just thank your optometrist or your vision therapist, because they are protecting you from getting double vision. And I promise you, double vision is so much worse than suppressing or having an eye turn. It can really just wreak havoc on your whole life. And if you have amblyopia, congratulations. You're kind of lucky, because there are so many fun games and apps that you can totally just jump right into with little risk of making things worse. If you want to see some of those apps and games, you can go back and watch last week's video. If you want specific things that are great, if you do have an eye turn, that is basically 90% of the content on this channel is geared towards that side of things, where you do have an eye turn and you have to be very delicate about the approach. So many different videos on this channel cater to that specific topic. So I will link a couple in the description that I think are the most applicable, but the idea is that there are solutions. You just have to go about it in the right way so that you don't make yourself totally miserable. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments, or you can schedule a Zoom call with me, and we will see you in the next video.